Hey, I'm Jason Freeman. Welcome to episode 256 of Awkwardly Awesome Podcast. Today I'm talking to a person who I met recently, and she has already taught me so much about resilience, creativity, and just a passion for life. She's really phenomenal. You're not going to want to miss this. I'll bring her on in a second, but first, this.
Today's guest, Leah Nixon.
Welcome back to Awkwardly Awesome Podcast, and please help me welcome Leah Nixon.
Hi, Jason.
Hey Leah, thanks so much for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm excited about our conversation today. And congrats on the 256 episode. I feel like that's a accomplishment for sure.
Thank you. It is. It is. So you have just this incredibly expansive story. Um. Last time we talked, we started from childhood and kind of went forward. How about this time? S- uh, I'm sorry. Tech.
Is Mercury in
How about
retrograde right now? I don't know.
how about this time we start with how did you start running marathons?
Sure. So, I don't know. Growing up, I was probably one of the last people you'd want to pick for your dodgeball team. Um, and I tried volleyball, and I had a terrible time serving it over the net, so I eventually quit that. But in college, somebody said to me, like, the shape that you're in your 20s sort of dictates the shape that you're going to be in for the rest of your life. And I guess I took that to heart. And I hadn't been really doing any physical activity except like walking to my classes. Um, and so my dad's actually a runner. He's run like many marathons. Um, and I decided, well, you know what? Like running kind of sucks. My lungs burn and I can barely, make it around the block, but I can do anything for 10 minutes a day. So, yeah, I would put my running shoes on and just go around the block. And, I remember getting shin splints about 2 weeks in. Uh, but then after I got over that, like, initial resistance, I started to really love it. And my dad's actually a pretty quiet person. And I realized that, like, if I did an activity with him, like, running, I could talk to him on the phone about that particular thing, and get to know him more that way. And probably about a couple months into running, I thought, oh, maybe I could do a half marathon. And so, yeah, I started training for a half marathon. My dad helped me like set up a schedule for that, and pretty soon I had run a couple half marathons, and then I wanted to run a full marathon, and I ended up running two full marathons. Um, yeah, I think, team sports maybe weren't quite my thing, because it was so much pressure to perform well for other people, but running was sort of like I was competing against myself, and like especially like distance running. Like, am I physically able to do this? And it was really cool to see like, um, yeah, that my body really learned to enjoy that activity.
Just such a phenomenal story of. Do you still keep in touch with that friend who told you that thing about the shape you're in your 20s?
No, I don't think so. I think I remember who it was, but I'm not in touch with them anymore. But yeah, obviously, it's funny. Like sometimes you might say something to somebody, and like it changes their life, and like you don't even, yeah, you never know what might impact somebody.
Yeah, it's amazing the impact we can have on people with simple handwritten things, but and
Hmm.
with what we say and stuff. More
Hmm.
on that later.
Yeah.
But you mentioned that you want to run and want into athletics. What did you gravitate towards as a kid?
Um, Definitely like creative things. Um, Art was at the top of that list. Theater. Uh, yeah, I when I was a kid, I kind of commandeered our guest bathroom in my house as my studio space. And it had the art closet in there, so like all my art supplies, had the little bathroom sink so that I could like wash out my watercolor brushes. And um yeah, I would just like happily spend like hours in the bathroom, and then I'd like emerge with a piece of art to show my family. um and that was like definitely my happy place as a kid. um and before the age of iPads and iPhones, my sister and I got into all sorts of creative endeavors, writing our own plays or making music videos, or what else? Designing product catalogs. And I just remember like sitting at the kitchen counter with her, drawing and doing homework, and my mom was, in there making dinner. And yeah, that's kind of summarizes my childhood, I suppose.
It sounds like you and your sister found a lot of joy in creating together.
Definitely. Yeah, like we've always been best friends. And I think our relationship has only gotten closer because she was a few years older than me in school. So I think there's always like a little bit of disconnect with that, because each person has their own friend groups, or like their own homework assignments that they're working on. But uh, yeah, it's really cool to get to work with her like every day now. And I think just all those years of creative collaboration, taught us how to work together. And we have like very or like complementary skills. So she is much better with financial stuff and legal stuff. I'm more like on the like artistic creative side. And so it's kind of cool to um yeah, have, not to give much away, but have her as my creative business partner.
I mean, it's just amazing that your skills do complement each other. You went to college for art,
Hmm.
and you were painting, right?
Yep. Yeah, that was like what I specialized in with my last 2 years of college. Um, but I also did like lots of other art classes, some illustration classes, art history classes. I minored in creative writing and like kind of took a lot of poetry classes. Um, yeah.
What did you enjoy about illustration? Or did
Mm,
you enjoy
yeah.
illustration in college?
Yeah, I think even from when I was like a little kid, I remember looking up to certain illustrators. Mary Engelbright, I don't know if you recognize that name. She has like very like um recognizable happy style. Um like Lisa Frank. Lisa Frank is like the one who does like rainbow baby leopards and unicorns and dolphins and like all the girls in my class like wanted Lisa Frank binders and I wanted to be Lisa Frank because I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is so cool." Like her art is just, desirable um and then I did a couple illustration classes in college, and I really enjoyed them. But then when it was time to like decide which major I was going into, I decided that I was wanted to do painting instead of graphic design. Um, but I think I really realized after college that what I was really after was illustration. And so I went to an illustration camp for a month, and it was like highly impactful and I just really enjoy that like illustration, like you need to be able to communicate and like people either like it or they don't. It's a very like kind of I don't know. I think some art veers on more like highbrow, like, oh yeah, like you don't get that. But illustration is like, yeah, like kids should be able to understand what's going on in this picture. Um and I also enjoy like there's a illustrator named Quentin Blake who illustrated a lot of the Roald Dahl books.
Oh,
Like
wow.
his style is like really quirky and like really loose brushwork, and but it still like communicates like a feeling to it, and you can still see what's going on in the pictures. But I like how like illustration just has like such a wide way of expressing itself, I guess.
What did you learn from the intense study of painting that you've taken into your work as an illustrator?
Mm. Um, yeah, like we were really encouraged to work in series in college, so kind of building upon a similar theme with each painting that we did. Um, Kind of thinking about like the general thing we're trying to convey and then exploring that message through, individual paintings. I was also really interested in relational artwork, so like artwork that the viewer somehow had involvement in.
Hmm.
Um, so at my senior thesis exhibit, I had painted these little abstract paintings, and then I had paper there and crayons that other people could kind of like pick a painting of mine, respond to it in a visual form, and then they would take my painting and take it home and they'd put their artwork up there. Um, and so I don't know, just like wanting interaction with the viewer, I think was like something that was really interesting to me.
Wow. Well, well,
Yeah.
I say wow because I know the rest of the story. This is all
Yeah.
going in a certain direction.
Yes, for sure.
Um, an odd chapter in your story is, or I mean, it seems out of the trajectory of your story because you've lived in Western South Dakota and Rapid City a lot of your life. but you moved to you moved to Kentucky. What led you to Kentucky?
Yeah, after I graduated from college, I moved back home and I met a boy here, and then he was going to the School of Mines, which is for engineering, and he got a job after he graduated down in Kentucky. He was working at an aluminum plant, and I decided to move down there with him. But I don't know. We were living in Kentucky. They're called a holler. It's like away. We were near a lake and like an hour away from the closest coffee shop, and
Oh my
um,
gosh.
yeah. And being from Rapid City, we actually have like a lot of wonderful locally owned coffee shops, and so I was like, where are all the coffee shops? I don't get it. Um, but yeah, we built a tiny house actually here in Rapid City in my parents' backyard, and we drove it down to Kentucky, and it was like super nerve-wracking to drive that thing. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So
Uh,
why is it no bagging driving a tiny house?
why is it no fun, you said? Or
No, why is it so stressful to drive a tiny house?
oh, well, they're not quite made like a camper, although I think driving a camper would even be a little nerve-wracking, but a tiny house, um, it was pretty tall. The legal maximum height I think is like 13.5. And it's made with wood, and so like they're rather heavy. Um,
Ugh,
and yeah, I don't know. It just like was very stressful. Um,
ugh.
and but we lived in that for a couple years, and I did a lot of um more building, like finishing out the tiny house more, and I started another structure, my tiny studio, I called it, and it was like even smaller. Um, I
What
yeah.
did you love about building?
I Yeah, I had barely done any building before any of this. And when I first started trying to learn how to like frame up a wall, I couldn't even use an impact drill. Like I was so weak. It's sort of like the running thing. Like I
Hmm.
kind of kept doing it, and I got stronger, and I could see improvement, and then it's just like a really magical moment. I think when you like lift up the walls and screw them together, and then suddenly think there's fireworks going on. Do you see that?
Yeah,
Anyway, it's very
magical
exciting.
moment.
But yeah, like when you're like sitting inside something that you built, it's such a cool feeling, and I think that it strikes a person like very central to your like animal self, if that makes sense. Like, even birds build their own nests, and I think it's just something that people don't really do very much anymore, but it's such a wonderful feeling to like sort of be able to design your environment like that, um like have built it with your own hands.
So while you were in Kentucky, you had a very significant conversation with your sister.
Mm, yeah. So like Kentucky was, like I said, I was like an hour away from the closest coffee shop. And I didn't have any friends closer than an hour away, so I was
Oh.
pretty darn lonely, and I started to get really anxious. And but I knew that like when I talked on the phone to my older sister, it helped me feel better. Um, and one day we were chatting, and she was telling me about she had started an Etsy store selling individually hand painted greeting cards. And even with like the small volume she was doing, her wrist started to give out on her. And it dawned on me that, I was able, like, because of my training in college, I had kind of learned how to like digitize artwork and do some of the website stuff. So I said, great. But, like I was saying, my executive functioning skills weren't super strong. So like the business side of art really intimidated me. Um, but I said to her, like, Grace, I could be your hands and you could be my brain and we could build a greeting card company together. And so that's what we did. We chatted for probably a week about names for the company. And then, yeah, I was scrolling Instagram one day and there was this post by some family friends. Their little daughter had drawn the adventures of Tiny and Snail, and I was like, whoa. Like I was super into tiny houses. My sister was super into snail mail. I was just like, that is an incredible name. So we asked for permission, and we decided to go by the name Tiny and Snail. Um, yeah,
Talk about people having an impact, like unbeknownst to them, like
yeah,
that little girl just sounds like she was creating, and then
yeah,
suddenly it's a business name.
yeah. Pretty cool. Yeah, we really don't create in isolation. It's like everybody's ideas impact other people, and that's pretty cool. And especially with the internet now, like I think there's so much more interactions going on like that all the time.
Yeah, and that's around the world, obviously.
Yeah.
So your experience with building and your and your desire to get out of Kentucky,
Yeah. So I
kind of
eventually,
what?
oh, go on.
Uh, I mean, I kind of or just lead you back to your hometown of Rapid City.
Yeah. Yeah, I eventually learned or like realized that I needed to leave Kentucky. And so I moved back home to Rapid City, and um I was looking for a job here, and my mom saw in the church bulletin that Habitat for Humanity was hiring builders. Um, so not just volunteers, but people to actually be on a construction crew. And I thought, wow, that sounds like a really cool thing. And like my sister and I had happened to raise money for Habitat for Humanity when I was in high school. And so it just sort of felt like full circle, like this is
Mm.
what God wanted for my life at that point. And so I joined the Habitat construction crew, and I was the only woman, and I'm kind of short and small, but I'm pretty strong, and so it was, I don't know, I just got along really well with all the guys, and it was really cool because a lot of the people who will end up owning the habitat homes are women, and it was very cool to get to show them like how to use power tools like a saw or
Mm.
a screw gun, and it's just like getting to see them feel more confident or empowered was one of the coolest parts of the job, I think. Yeah.
How many homes did you work on before the home on Lemon Street?
Well, we were working on a kind of a little neighborhood division that had about 10 homes in it, maybe. They had somehow been like modular units, and we were kind of finishing them. So
Mm.
there were a lot. I did a ton of drywall work, like mudding and painting and
Yeah.
texturing, things like that. And some um, siding work. Oh darn. Yeah, some siding work. And then we moved on to the project, the Lemon House, um, the house on Lemon Street. And I was sort of paired off with another guy who was in charge, and I was sort of helping him. And then like on more intense days, other people would join us to help like put up the walls and things like that.
So, so, so you were doing a job involving a telehandler.
Yeah.
Telehandler.
Yeah. One day we were putting up rafters for that house, and it was a 2-story house. And I was supposed to be the one on the ground holding the guide rope. So like we'd put the rafter on the arm of the telehandler, tie a rope around it, and raise it up and to get it up on the second floor. And I was on the ground holding this guide rope so that the rafter wouldn't like swing around and hit somebody out of the house. But it rained really heavily that day at lunch, and the ground just turned into a skating rink. And I was concerned that I was going to pull a groin muscle. Um, and the last thing I remember is thinking that I was like, it felt like I was like a little mouse leading a brontosaurus. Um, and I was concerned. The neighbor had some like whirligigs on his garage, and I was like, oh, we can't let the rafter hit one of those whirligigs off the house. Anyway, I don't remember anything after that because that's when the telehandler fell on me. And so, yeah, I don't remember anything. But I think what happened is I was pushed backwards. And immediately after I fell, my T4, T5 vertebrae burst. And I was instantly paralyzed from about chest level down. Um, And it took the firefighters 45 minutes to get the telehandler off of me. Meanwhile, the paramedics were pumping fresh blood into my system, and the telehandler like fell on my right leg, and it was bleeding pretty badly. So uh, the first person who saved my life was actually a former Marine who was on the work site that day, and he immediately took off his belt and tied it around my leg as a tourniquet. Um, Yeah, and then I don't know, the next thing I remember, I guess it was very fuzzy. I woke up in the ICU, just kind of like, I mean, I was literally laid out in the bed. My vision was super blurry. I had tubes down my throat, and I had been in and out of surgery. Um, I just kind of remember like feeling like held in the molecules sort of, and that I wasn't gonna fall any farther. Um, but I was in a lot of pain, and there was sort of like this inky blackness that I kind of knew that if I went into it, I wasn't gonna be in pain anymore. But every time that happened, somebody in my family would come and hold my hand, and I was just like, I can't go. Like, I have to be here for, I have a little brother who's 15 years younger than me, and I was like, what, one time he came and held my hand. I was like, I have to stay for Will. Um, and yeah, being in the ICU was totally life changing. I mean, being paralyzed was totally life changing, but also just the experience in the ICU of really understanding what I feel like life is all about, like the people who you get to do life with, and the things that bring happiness, like dancing and art and singing. Um, yeah, the it was just, and greeting cards. I I was on the receiving end of a ton of greeting cards from people, both friends and family who I'd known for my whole life, people from college who I had only interacted with a few times. Um, but like before my accident happened, I feel like I had no idea how to design a sympathy or encouragement card. But like being on the receiving end of so many and like seeing what made me feel better. Yeah, it was an incredible experience. I kind of felt like Tom Sawyer at my own funeral. Um, and just, I think getting to hear all those lovely things about yourself, like, it just really motivated me. And since then, I've learned that, like, uh, hearing things like that can spark dopamine, and dopamine is what helps us get through hard things. Um, so yeah, I think that like each card was literally, a dose of medicine that I was receiving.
Each card was literally a dose of medicine.
Yeah.
I think about being a sender of a greeting card, and sometimes it seems like I'm pick this card and I'm writing this thing. How big of a deal can it be? But for the receiver,
hmm Yeah. Like, I don't know. I might not be here if it weren't for all of those cards. And, during COVID, I felt so bad for the people in the ICU because without getting to have their families there, like,
oh,
I don't know. I just, like, broke my heart thinking about that. Um, but yeah, I think that a greeting card can have a lot of impact. And, um, like we were saying before, you never know what you say, how it might affect somebody. Um, and how it might change their life, um, or provide inspiration to keep going. Um, so yeah, there's something really special about that. And not to make anybody feel guilty, but like I think that sometimes not hearing anything from other people can feel like really isolating and lonely. So like even though it might be hard to write a sympathy or encouragement card for somebody, like I think it's generally better to say something than nothing.
that's a big thing that's happened for me through the years. Sometimes I think, oh, I want to write a card, but I don't know the perfect thing to say. So then I agonize and procrastinate about what exactly to say. But
Mm,
then the moment passes,
mm, mhm.
which seems but you're saying a greeting card doesn't need to say the perfect thing.
Yeah, I think in like as most creative things, like there really isn't the perfect thing to say. Uh, and I don't know. I think I found some tips over the years of like how people can approach it a little differently or better have a general idea of what might be good to say. But yeah,
Well,
one of my tricks is like literally starting the card with, "I don't know what to say, but," and then just say it. um, yeah,
I don't just starting off the card with admitting what is so. I
yeah,
don't know what to say, but
yeah.
and then what happens?
Oh, after you say that, I don't know. I often like affirm the person in a card. You know, I think you can never go wrong with telling somebody how wonderful you think they are, or like saying that you love XYZ about them,
Mm.
like how they tell stories or the questions they ask or that they're so passionate about gardening or I don't know.
Hmm.
Um, the things that like helped me the most when I was in the ICU. Actually, my favorite phrase was "You're a badass," because like felt like a slug in the bed. I wasn't even able to go to the bathroom by myself. Like I was literally doing nothing except talking, and uh, to hear people say like you're a badass. You've done hard things before, and like you can do hard things again. Like this is such a hard situation that you've been thrust into, but like I believe in you. I think that was the big, like the most encouraging thing to hear. Yeah.
In your experience, from that experience, what are some things not to say?
Yeah, I didn't like being reminded that the accident had happened or that I was now paralyzed or I had lost my right leg. I was very aware of all those things and I don't know, I just found it kind of hard to hear that people were sorry for me. Um like I wanted to be focused on like how do I get over this traumatic thing that had happened to me? And so, yeah, I just personally didn't love hearing "I'm so sorry." Even though I think it is tempting to tell people that because you are so sorry that these things happened. But I don't know, just for me, that wasn't the right thing at that time. Um, but yeah, I actually really loved when people either described like an, an interaction they had had with me that maybe meant something to them or even just like describing where they were and what they were doing. I don't know, that kind of felt nice to sort of get to escape my ICU room for a little bit. Just imagining, I don't know, somebody walking next to the beach and gathering some. I had somebody gather sand and water in a little jar for me and send it to me.
Mm,
Like I was so desperate for nature when I was in the ICU
mm,
because all I could see is like a little bit of sky out my window and
mm,
like that was I still have it on my bookshelf. Um
mm.
and yeah, I don't know what else to say
I,
about it.
I I didn't ask you this beforehand today, but I'm hoping you have some of your greeting cards
Mm,
on the table.
yeah, I do. What do you want to see?
I'm going. Oh, take it off when you're done showing them. But I'm going to put you on solo
Okay,
layout. Will you show each card and say a little about what you love about it?
sure.
Okay. See you in this. I'm here, but
Okay. Um, this one's sitting right on top. It says, "Greatness is when you leave the room and people have more hope than when you entered."
oh
It's a
my.
Rob Bell quote. Um, my sister actually had like wrote out this quote and it was on my door in my rehab facility and one of the nurses had come in to like give me my nighttime medicine and she was just I don't know. I love nurses. I realized how much they help healing. It's not just doctors, but like nurses play such a crucial role. Anyway, I think she was telling me about some like Alzheimer's treatment or something. And when she left the room, I just felt like so much more hopeful about life. Um, and so then I knew this needed to be a card. Uh, so that's a great one for like thanking a nurse or doctor or something. Um,
Mhm.
let's see. Here's some cards that we just came out with. Uh, can you see that? It's a little washed out, but it says,
Yeah, yeah.
if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. It's an African proverb. And this was like a quote that I heard in college, and it was really on my mind before I had the idea to start Tiny Ins now. Um, and I don't know, it's been on my mind a lot recently, and so I had to make it into a card. Um, oh,
Just so that quote has stuck with you since college. What do you love about it?
um, I guess it's just like encouraging, uh, to hear like, working together is more sustainable than trying to do something alone. Um, and 100% like I've found that to be true. And it's just so much more fun to get to work with other people too. I think like being a creator can sometimes be lonely, but
Mhm.
getting to like create alongside somebody else, I think my sister has always been one of my biggest fans. And so I just love like sending her uh drawings that I'm like half finished, and she's like, "Oh, I love it." So it's like highly motivating to me. I'm definitely a people pleaser, so like, I get so much joy out of making others happy with my art, I guess. Um, and this year, like, we've grown so much as a company that we now have somebody else doing fulfillment for our packages. So I don't know, like, yeah, if you want to go far, like,
Hmm.
get on a team with somebody. And I think, it's tempting to not, because you can be worried about negative interactions with people, but I think it's worth it in the end to try to figure out how to work with other people. Do you want to
So,
see another one?
I mean,
Or
yeah, just one sec.
okay.
So Leah, this is your website, right?
Oh, yep. Hmm.
Okay, let's see another card. This is like show and tell it. It's so
Yeah.
much fun.
Honestly, this one kind of reminds me of you, because I think that this is one of your big messages. Um, there's no one like you. And this was inspired by, well, I've watched a lot of Mr. Rogers this past year, because I think I've had a lot of like mindset issues about sharing my awkward self on the internet. And Mr. Rogers has a lot of messages about like people can love you exactly the way you are, and some people are fancy on the outside, some people are fancy on the inside.
Mm.
Um, and he just like talks a lot about like loving yourself for like who you were born. Um, and this was also inspired by, there's a photographer from the 1800s named Snowflake Bentley, and
Wow.
he ended up being the first person to ever photograph a snowflake, and he captured 5,000 snowflakes in his lifetime, um, in photographs, and he went into debt $11,000 doing this passion of his. Um, but for like almost 100 years, nobody bothered to photograph other snowflakes, because he had just done such an amazing job capturing the snowflakes. So yeah, that one's kind of a fun one. So I hope that people use this to tell people like how great they are and as individuals. Um,
So Leah, when you design and create cards, do you think about how people will use them?
Yeah. Generally, I start with thinking about something in my own life or something that another person in my life is going through. Um, and I don't know, each design probably takes me anywhere between like 3 and 10 hours. Um, because I'm a perfectionist and I just want to get it as good as I can. But while I'm thinking or like working on it, I'm thinking about kind of like starting all the way from like myself or somebody else I know, and then like thinking about other people in my life who I might apply to, and then like the wider circle of people who like the customers that will be buying the cards and the people will be sending them to. So it's just kind of amazing to like, and then after we release all these cards, people tell me all the time like the ways that they've used the cards, and I'm like, I would have never even thought about that. But
Mm.
I really try to make cards like a very
You really tried to what? Leah?
like specific
Oh
but
shoot.
universal at the same time. Am I back? Hello?
Yeah. Please say that again. You really try to make cards that what?
Okay. Like the imagery is specific, but the wording is really versatile. So people say they love having our cards on hand because they can come to their stash and like find a great card. Uh, and I think that's just because they're so versatile. Um, but when I was in college, I was um, like I did a lot of poetry, and I tried to be a spoken word poet, but I could never write a very long poem. And I think I was actually secretly a greeting card designer all along, and I didn't know it. So I don't know. This one is a scene from the lake that I lived on in Kentucky, um, and I think that would make a really good Valentine's card. But also, it's not like it doesn't say Happy Valentine's Day on it. It affirms the person instead. So like you can reach for this any time of the year or for a birthday or for
What does it say inside?
oh all of our cards are always blank inside. Because we so strongly believe in the power of the handwritten note. So I think that that's another secret of our cards. Like, you can make them more specific with what you say on the inside of the card. But it says you have a dazzling heart on the outside there.
So the heart is in the sky, the top's in the sky, and the bottom's in the water, right?
Yeah, it doesn't really make sense as a reflection, but
I mean,
you
it's
know,
amazing though. It's beautiful.
and that's what I love about illustration. It doesn't have to make sense. It can like make sense just metaphorically. Like this one is uh it says winters are for dreaming. I don't know if you can see that, but it's these bulbs underground dreaming about the flowers that they're going to become in the
Oh
spring.
my gosh.
uh,
What a good, as we go into to the darkest time of year, what a great
mm,
way of reframing winter.
mm. Yeah, this one kind of came to me last winter because being in a wheelchair it gets harder in the winter because like it's not as easy to go outside and go for a walk. And so like confining to me, but it was snowing outside and I was like, what are winters good for? And then it just came to me like winters are good for dreaming. Um, and I
Mm.
have a lot of memories. Our dad is a huge gardener, and so we planted bulbs with him in the fall and looked through lots of plant catalogs in the winter. And it's just like kind of fun to get to think about like, spring will come again. Um, and in the ICU, one day I thought I was dying, and the doctors told me like, Grace, they told my sister, Grace, you have to go in there and give her hope. Open up the window or blinds, like let in the light, help her dream a little bit about like what her future might look like. And I remember, I didn't have kids at the time. I wasn't even married, but Grace started saying, like, she knew that I wanted kids someday. She's like, I just envision like two little kids running around and you're chasing them in your wheelchair. And like, I don't know. Yeah, I think it's really important to just like dream a little bit when things are really tough. So,
And now you have a child.
I have two. Yeah, I have
So
a
that
4 year. The dream
what
came
she
true.
was talking about has become your reality.
It's really wild. Yeah. Um, I have a 4 year old and an 8 month old, and it is just really wonderful to, you know, it's tough being a mom in a wheelchair. But yeah, just the miracle that those two kids exist, like it's so cool. And they are just like light in my life. And I will say I have a ton of nerve pain from being paralyzed. Like, this is something that I didn't know before my accident happened, that a lot of people with paralysis, like, you know, my feeling stops about here, but then the nerve pain starts. So, like, the rest of my body at all waking times of the day, it feels like I'm like dipped in a pool with an extension, oh, like electrical extension in there. It's just like buzzing with electricity all the time. And
You feel like what?
oh, like I kind of imagine it. It's like being electrocuted in a pool or something.
Oh,
Uh, like
yeah, that's vivid.
I had no idea that this was an issue with paralysis, but I think mentally that was like probably the hardest thing to overcome. Um, And so honestly, like I think that having kids was part of the reason, or like partly to give myself like hope and a reason to keep going, even with the pain. And they're great distractions when you're thinking about like a little kid needing his diaper changed. Like, it's great to distract yourself from the nerve pain. And I think, that is probably one reason that I'm so driven with Tiny Ants now, and like just keep pushing myself to make art and to write more and all of this. Like, the nerve pain just like doesn't let me forget that I am mortal and I'm not gonna be here forever. And yeah, just like seize the day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you said during a pre-interview that you break, and this kind of surprised me. You said that your break was in a good place.
Oh yeah.
What do you mean by that?
So man, okay, this is another like pretty wild part of the story too. Um, if that telehandler would have fallen just a little bit differently, or if I had just not run quite far enough or whatever, I, you know, I woke up with zero brain damage, which is incredible.
Mm.
Um, and I also like was able to use my hands. So literally the first question I spelled into, like, I think the doctors told me that I was paralyzed and I wouldn't be walking again. Um, and the first question I finger spelled into my sister's hands was, "Can I still draw?" Like, I don't even remember asking that question actually, but obviously that was like, it's so central to who I am. And so that was like the number one thing for me to know if I could do that still. And since then, like I have met people who are paralyzed in their neck and they draw with their mouth, which is absolutely incredible. But I don't think my art would look the same if that's how I would be drawing these cards. So, and then I've also heard that like having a break lower down, they stabilize your spine with two rods, and so I've heard that it's often like pretty hard to bend because you have these rods in your spine. So, um, yeah, I just one of the first things my sister, when she heard that the accident had happened, she said, "God, you have to let her live, and you have to let her use her hands to draw." And like, I don't know. I don't know. My story has so many strange things like that. It's like kind of too too odd to be coincidence, you know. Um,
Hmm.
uh, Life is a mystery,
Hmm.
but I guess for me, it's somehow makes sense. Yeah.
Um, what words of encouragement would you give someone who's recently had a major medical event from a diagnosis to
Mm,
paralysis to something else?
yeah, I think one of the most helpful things for me was that I didn't dwell too much in the past, um, because like I thought, you know, you can't go back. Like I can't go back to that day and say like, "Hey guys, like I don't really feel safe on the site today. I'm gonna check out." uh, I all I had to like I could only go forward, and so I think that was like a grace that I received that I was able to just like I had no resentment towards anybody who I had been working with. Like I just was able to like get on with my life and like do my therapies, and I did a lot of emotional processing with my art. Like I drew this little weasel comic, I call it. It's like a snippet from my day, but I'm a weasel in the comic, and like that was something that helped me process like hearing other people's stories. At first I really didn't want to hear other people's experience from like people who were disabled, but then when I actually started to meet people at rehab, it was actually really nice to talk to somebody who actually like understood what nerve pain felt like. Or I don't know, I feel like I almost identify more with anybody who's a paraplegic than I do like with any other like identity marker, um, woman or white or even artist maybe. um, but yeah, I guess those are my two things, like connecting with other people and hearing their stories, and just focusing on the future, and and having a growth mindset. This is another card that I came out with this year. It says, "We are happiest when we are growing." It's a William Butler Yeats quote. Um,
Hmm.
and
Well,
yeah, this has been a favorite quote of mine for a while too. Um,
I
and yeah, just
I
having a
I
growth mindset.
I love that you find ways to convey profound concepts and very in a very succinctly and in a beautiful way.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's one of my superpowers, I guess. Just like illustration is such a superpower. Um, Being able to like see something in my head and draw it out, it's pretty cool.
You refer to this as your second life.
Mm, mm-hmm.
what's it like to get to live two lives?
Pretty cool. I think that I was a very indecisive person before my accident. And I, you know, at the time, I had broken up with my boyfriend and I was living back home. And I think I was just like, I was 29, but I was like so unsure about the rest of my life. But like when I woke up in the ICU, I was like, okay, like I don't have forever to live. Like, let's make some decisions. So I actually
Mm,
proposed to my boyfriend in the ICU because he came back for me, and
mm,
like, and suddenly it made sense. Like, even the thing that he's like an engineer or that he has worked with cars his whole life, like, it felt like he was a perfect person to like help with wheelchair maintenance and things like that. And so I just, I think that nobody's perfect, and um it's more about like how you can work together, and yeah, like getting to marry him and then have kids. Like, how cool. I might have been 40 years old and never had kids if this accident happened, or it
mm,
hadn't happened. So
mm,
I don't really know how my life would be different, but I don't think it would be nearly as fulfilling or
mm.
um, meaningful. Yeah.
I could talk with you for hours because you have such great stories and are so
Oh,
wise. But this is the last question, and I ask.
okay.
Oh my gosh, this what does doing your imperfect best mean to you, Leah?
I love that actually. Yeah, I read your book and I really appreciated it. And I think that as a creative perfectionist, um like I think that just having the guts to put something out there, like as long as you feel like it's your best, that it's true to you, and trying to be generous towards other people, like I think that's what doing your imperfect best means.
Mm,
And yeah, I just um like you say in your book, like nothing good can happen if you're not willing to show up. And like, yes, like this is the only body that you get. You know, you can't. You can work on yourself, but there are just some things that like you can't change. And like I just think that it is a really important message to say like, yeah, this is me, and I'm gonna show up um, and do my best.
it's profound. Thank you, and thanks for being here, Leah. And please, this is important. I'm going to wrap this up, but please stay on. It takes a while for things to upload and stuff.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you
and
so much, Jason.
yeah, you're welcome. And thanks everyone for tuning in. I encourage you to go to Tea and Snail. Like this website is beautiful. It makes me smile, and it brings joy each time I visit it. It's just a fun place.
Thank
So
you.
so So head on over if you want to, and thanks for tuning in, and thanks for thinking about Leah's profound story. And please leave comments if you have them. We love comments, and tune in next week for another episode of Ugly Awesome Podcast. I try to say that dramatically. And most of all, remember you are the best. You are the one and only one of you in this world who has been or ever will be. You're unique. You have a unique body, unique thoughts, unique things you can do. Thanks so much for being you. Until next time.